noun clauses function in the same way as noun. Does anybody remember the definition for clause? A clause is a grammatical structure that contains at least a subject and a finite verb, okay?
Okay.
So sometimes we can consider them as mini sentences or full sentences, okay? And there are some cases in which they function in the same way as nouns. That is to say, we can have a clause as a subject, as an object, or as a complement. Take a look at some of these examples. I know that the students have been studying. In this case, that the students have been studying is a clause, okay? It's a noun clause. We call it a noun clause because it functions in the same way as a noun would function, okay? In this case, as the object of the verb know. Generally, these begin with that or sometimes with the WH word. Another example would be that the students have been studying is apparent in their productions. In that case, the clause functions as a subject. Do you understand? Do you understand what a noun clause is?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
I understand
Yes?
what you say, but I don't understand the example.
Shall we go back?
Always is with that or not?
No, sometimes they can be with WH words, okay? Like for example, what, where, when.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, we will see some examples later, some more examples later.
Okay, Mister.
Then we have some noun clauses which were derived from statements, okay? I will give you an example of a statement. Students shouldn't copy, okay? Based on that statement, we can create many examples and many versions of noun clauses functioning as different parts of the sentence. In the first example, we have the noun clause functioning as a subject. And we can say something like, that students shouldn't copy is obvious. As you can see, that students shouldn't copy is a noun clause. It is highlighted because this whole structure is the subject of the sentence. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes.
We have another example where we say that everybody knows that students shouldn't copy. In this case, the clause is an object. We can also say, we can also derive these clauses with phrases like the fact or the idea. And we can say something like, the fact that students shouldn't copy is quite obvious. It's also very common to use these noun clauses after adjectives, such as afraid. And we can say something like, I'm afraid that students shouldn't copy. In this case, that is optional. Do you understand? Are you following?
Yes, Mr. The last one will be like a complement.
Yes, some people call it the complement of the adjective, okay?
Okay.
Let's move on. Another common verb is believe, okay? And something like, I don't believe that students should copy. And I don't suppose you are aware students shouldn't copy. In this case, there is an opposite relationship between negatives and affirmative parts of the sentence, okay? If you use a negative part in the verb, then you should use a noun clause in an affirmative way. I don't believe that students should copy. Negative and affirmative. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Then we have some noun clauses which can be derived from questions, okay? And in the first example, we have yes and no questions. Yes and no questions can be turned into noun clauses by adding if or whether and removing the question order, okay? So let's take a look at the question like, did you finish all the assignments? As you can see, this is a yes-no question because it can be answered by yes, I did, or no, I didn't, okay? Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to need some confirmation that you are alive from time to time, okay?
Okay,
Yes,
mister.
So as we said before, the way to turn these into a noun clause is by adding if or whether and removing the question order. It should have a normal sentence order, okay? We can come up with something like,
Can you repeat?
yes,
I don't hear you.
yes, sure. The way to turn these into a noun clause is to add if or whether, depending on the case, and removing the question order. That is to say, the clause, somebody's microphone is misbehaving. Could you guys silence your microphone a bit? Okay. So in this case, the version of the sentence that we can come up with is, whether you have finished all the assignments or not, will decide if you pass the course. In this case, the clause is functioning as a subject, and the clause has become whether you have finished all the assignments or not. We can have another example in which the clause functions as a complement. And we can say something like, the question is whether you have finished all the assignments. As you can see, the yes-no question has turned into a noun clause. Are you guys following so far?
yes.
Okay. Let's move on. We can also see this noun clause as an object in this example. If you want to know, sorry, I want to know if you have finished all the assignments. Okay, this is the noun clause. It's highlighted here. Can you see it? If we happen to be analyzing sentences, we would say that these whole structure, if you have finished all the assignments, all of these is an object, okay? This is a direct object. We can also call it the object of a preposition, and we can say something like, I'm worried about whether you have finished all the assignments or not. In this case, this whole clause is the object after a preposition, in this case, the preposition about. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, you seem to be suffering.
Sorry.
Yes, okay. As we have yes and no questions, we can also have WH questions, okay? And these are other examples that you people were asking me before, okay? Do they always start with that? No, sometimes they can start with a WH question, or as you saw before, with if or whether. And there are several examples here. What the students have learned is amazing. Can you tell me what the subject of that question is? Sorry, of that sentence is?
All the part that is before the verb.
Yes, not very technical for grammar, but that is okay. What the students have learned. This is a noun clause, okay? And this is functioning as the subject of the sentence. If we were to analyze a sentence, we would say that this is a subject, this is a verb, and this is a complement. Amazing, okay? Do you understand?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Can you tell me what the noun clause is in the second sentence? The question is what the students have learned.
You ask what is a noun clause?
What is the noun clause in the second sentence? The question is what the students have learned.
It's the
What the
subject
students
complement.
have learned.
Yes,
Yes.
it begins with the WH word, okay? And it goes
Yes.
all the way up to the end. What the students have learned. That is a noun clause and that is functioning as
Mhm.
a complement in the sentence, okay?
Yes.
We can
Yes.
also have noun clauses after reporting verbs, like I wonder what the students have learned. In this case, the noun clause is the same, okay? What the students have learned. And we can also have these noun clauses after a verb plus a preposition, like in this example. The exam will focus on what the students have learned.